Let's all take a deep inhale together. The beauty of the Lord, and exhale, fills the earth. And inhale, the beauty of the Lord. Exhale is sitting right next to you. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass. The one who is eating sugar out of my hand. Who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, and how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. So we are in the midst of a sermon series exploring our divine calling as human beings to work. Josh kicked us off by giving us a framework for how we think about the concept of work, which we are defining as the things to which we give our time, attention, energy, and resources. Our work then includes not only the jobs we are paid for, but encompasses much more than that. In the words of Dallas Willard, work is the production of value by the actions of our thoughts and our bodily efforts upon available resources. I made a smoothie this morning. That was the production of value, very tasty value, I might add, fueled by the thought that I should probably have some nutrients in my body when I was standing up here this morning, and also by my body's extensive efforts to gather the smoothie ingredients and prepare them, which, by the way, today unfortunately included having to stir the unopened jar of peanut butter and not try and spill any oil over the edge, which is way more stressful than it sounds like it should be. Some of you know what I'm talking about. If you have any pointers, I'll gladly receive them on the patio. But all that to say, I stepped up here this morning already having done some work, and most likely you have as well. Last week, Rachel introduced the concept of calling, which can carry different connotations. But how we're talking about it is this. Our calling as Christians is to participate with God in God's work in the world. Our calling as Christians is to participate with God in God's work in the world. This can take many forms, but as Rachel noted for us, the work of God in the world is often evidenced by beauty, goodness, and truth. Beauty, goodness, and truth. Because those attributes are core to who God is. Rachel preached on our calling to the work of goodness last week, and today I'll be exploring our divine calling to participate with God in cultivating beauty in the world. To put another way, part of our vocation as Christians is the task of recognizing and cultivating beauty in the world. Now, I want to go on record and say that Ted Callahan texted me yesterday suggesting for the sermon as an example of beauty, I walk up here and just say, "Behold," and we put on Shohei Ohtani highlights on the screen from the Dodger game on Friday, where he gave one of the greatest performances in sports history, sending the Dodgers to the World Series. Ken, I hear you. I hear you, baby. But Giants fans, I like to think of myself as a nice guy, and just didn't want to put you through that. Rachel read the passage earlier from Paul's letter to the Philippians where he exhorts them. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, lovely, admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Now, I imagine if Paul were running low on ink when he said this, if he only had enough ink for one word, I imagine it would read like this. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is beautiful, think about such things. Eugene Peterson was onto this with his translation of the Message, where he says, summing it all up, friends, I say you'll do best by filling your minds and meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious, the best, not the worst, the beautiful. Do that, and God, who makes everything work together, will work you into his most excellent harmonies. Now, some of you probably have the question, what is beauty? When we say something is beautiful, what is it that we are talking about? Well, we had some fun on the worship team text thread this week where I asked folks to come up with their own definition of beauty, no AI assistance allowed. And here's a little sampling of what came in. Beauty is when someone steps out of their comfort zone and we cheer them on to do something they never thought possible. Beauty is the word for someone or something that is the way it's supposed to be, and then some. Beauty is the lens through which we observe the artistic qualities of God. Beauty is that which evokes a subjective experience of awe and admiration. Beauty is the artistic or aesthetic quality that we, as creative beings, can recognize as connecting us to being a small part of something larger and more meaningful than our everyday lives sometimes feel, and as coming from the Creator, if we believe in one. Beauty jolts me out of my routine awareness and reminds me that I'm not as alone or as separate as I sometimes feel. Beauty stops us, makes us blink. Wonder and surrender are words my body and soul feel when beauty interrupts. Beauty is something that transcends objective attributes of good, such as visual symmetry or complexity or pleasant tonality, to stir inside the beholder a pleasant emotion or emotions, awakening memories of the divine. Beauty is found in the inner flow of the novel and the familiar. It captivates, emancipates, invigorates. It summons awe and wonder. It's a splash of life that may vanish at any moment, but the ripples and the memories remain. And lastly, how to define beauty? When we speak of beauty, we are speaking of a quality, a substance, an experience that isn't fully capturable by the words attempting to describe it. It can be experienced through something material, like a work of art, or non-material, an action, or a moment that is witnessed. And with the time we have this morning, I want to explore what the presence of beauty does and why it is a central part of our calling to work. And in just a bit, we'll have the opportunity to hear Ashley Callahan share from her experience as an artist. So we've made an attempt at defining beauty. What happens when it's encountered? What does the work of beauty do? I'm going to propose to us three things this morning, which are by no means exhaustive. And the first is this: beauty evokes a sense of transcendence. Beauty evokes a sense of transcendence. And in doing so, it bears witness to the source of beauty, offering a glimpse of what God is like, beautiful. In the poem I read earlier, The Summer Day, Mary Oliver describes in great detail the experience of observing and delighting in a grasshopper. She praises its beauty as a creature to behold. Now, I'm going to ask for a little congregational participation here. Does anyone remember the first line of the poem? It's 4 words. You can shout it out if you know it. Anybody? Who made the world? When we encounter beauty in a grasshopper, in a sunset, in a piece of music, it is often pleasing to our senses or our spirit. And in response, it provokes the desire to know the source, where it came from. Hence the first line of Oliver's poem. Surely this grasshopper came from somewhere. Someone or something had the idea of it and thought it worth bringing into being. And given this creature's beauty, surely its creator must be beautiful as well, perhaps even more so. This past week, my family traveled to the Central Coast to celebrate my dad's birthday. And on the drive back, we listened to the musical artist Blippi, who makes songs for kids. That sounds like some of you are familiar. And anytime a new song would come on, the whole last hour of the drive, our 3-year-old would ask, "Daddy, who sings this song?" And then, "Daddy, who wrote this song?" I don't even know where he learned the concept of being a songwriter. But he wanted to know where this beautiful work of art about dump trucks and excavators came from. The experience of beauty compels us to know its source. But C.S. Lewis takes this even one step further. We do not merely want to see beauty, though. God knows, even that is bounty enough. We want something else which can hardly be put into words, to be united with the beauty we see, to pass into it, to receive it into ourselves, to bathe in it, to become part of it. If you've ever been inside a cathedral, there's a good chance that it was filled with art, with stained glass, or intricate woodwork, sculptures, tapestries. That's rooted in the belief that art can function as an icon. An icon is something not simply to be looked at, but to be looked through, where the piece of art acts as a window to a deeper experience. For example, the act of meditating on a painting that depicts Jesus walking to the cross might not simply facilitate meaningful reflection, but actually lead to a spiritual encounter with Christ himself. In this way, beauty carries with it the potential for transcendence and puts us in touch with what God is like. Second, this morning, beauty affirms the dignity and value of creation. Beauty affirms the dignity and value of creation. In doing so, it bears witness to a God who desires not merely our existence, but our flourishing. I love this verse in Genesis 2 as part of the creation account. It says, "The Lord God made all kinds of trees grow out of the ground, trees that were pleasing to the eye and good for food." It's Genesis 2:9. God saw it fit to not just make trees that were purely functional, whose sole purpose was what they could produce. Rather, God also created them to be aesthetically pleasing. Trees that, regardless of the fruits of their labor, pun intended, would bring onlookers delight simply through observing their presence. Remember that included in our definition of work is what we give our attention to. The most quoted part of the summer day is its last line, which says, "Tell me, what do you plan to do with your wild and precious life?" Removed from its context, our inclination as products of our culture is likely to interpret this as an exhortation to accomplish something, to do something great, to achieve as much as we can with the time that we have. Now, that's actually not what Oliver is inferring in this poem. Her poem is advocating for paying attention, to noticing the beauty that is infusing all that is around us. Tell me, she says, what I could have done today that would have been a better use of my time than stopping to behold and delight in this beautiful creature. Now, obviously, there are certain things that require our time to survive and make it in this world. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And according to that, beauty is not essential. However, beauty is essential if we want to experience what Jesus refers to as life that is truly life, or in many translations, life abundant. In 3 different gospel accounts, the authors recount an event that affirms the relationship of beauty and abundance. Matthew 26. While Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant. Why this waste? They asked. This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. Truly, I tell you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." This woman, through an act of abundance, expresses to Jesus what Jesus meant to her. But notice the disciples' reaction. They scold her, claiming what she did was wasteful, fiscally irresponsible. But not Jesus. Jesus commends her, receiving what she has done as a beautiful thing, and he praises her for it. Similarly, in God's abundance, filling this world with beautiful things for us to enjoy, God dignifies and affirms our value as those who get to receive, to enjoy the gifts of God. In essence, God is saying, you are worth a world full of starfish and rainbows and dancing and cappuccinos and space shuttles and the feeling you have while walking to your car after just getting your haircut. Mako Fujimura in his book Culture Care notes, our sense of beauty and our creativity are central to what it means to be made in the image of a creator God. This is why our soul hungers for beauty. Beauty connects us with the why of living. Beauty connects us with the why of living. When I think about the why of living, what immediately comes to mind for me is relationships and how connection with others is imperative to our well-being. And I can think of many moments in my life where a shared experience of beauty has helped to facilitate connection. Just this last month, those of us on the worship team got together for a vinyl listening night where we listened through an entire record front to back. I know, counterculture, right? Who does that? But after listening, we shared what the experience was like for us, to just sit and behold and to take in the experience that this artist had created for us. We shared what resonated, what didn't. What did various parts make us feel? Could we locate any of our own story in the songs? And at the end of the evening, I think I can speak for all of us in saying we felt more connected to each other than when we entered the room. The shared experience of beauty deepened our sense of community with one another. Lastly, this morning, beauty inspires our imagination. The work of beauty inspires our imagination. In doing so, beauty fuels hope for what is not yet true or fully realized, and invites us to participate with God in its becoming. which is new creation. From a grasshopper to the Taj Mahal to Van Gogh's Starry Night, we live in a world filled with beauty. We also live in a world void of it, where families are displaced from their homes, where children go without food, and bombs are dropped on the innocent. While some would point to beauty as evidence of a beautiful God, others point to the violence and suffering endured every day across the globe and say God is anything but. It is in view of this that the Apostle Paul exclaims in Romans chapter 8, "We know that the whole creation is groaning together and suffering labor pains up until now." And it's not only the creation. We ourselves who have the Spirit also groan inside as we wait to be adopted and for our bodies to be set free. Paul compares the present reality of the world to the pains that a mother experiences during childbirth. And that is to say, it's filled with moments of excruciating, at times unendurable pain. And Paul's claim here is not that the pain isn't significant, but that it is worth enduring due to the beauty that awaits us on the other side, where the world and all who inhabit it will be liberated from our current suffering. Paul writes to fuel our endurance, to encourage hope in the present, and by offering our imagination a vision worth enduring for and worth working for. In the final pages of Scripture, we read the Apostle John in the book of Revelation further illuminate this vision of what is to come, forecasting God's ultimate plan for creation. It says this, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the former heaven and the former earth had passed away. And I heard a loud voice from the throne say, 'Look, God's dwelling is here with humankind. He will dwell with them, and they will be his peoples. God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. There will be no more mourning, crying, or pain anymore, for the former things have passed away.' Then the one seated on the throne said, 'Look, I am making all things new.'" John here is forecasting the new creation. Together, we, as the Church of Jesus Christ, are tasked with the work of being midwives for the fulfillment of God's original intent, where we live in a mended relationship with God, creation, and one another in the here and now. In the words of N.T. Wright, Christians are to be a future people, people of the future. And through our living lives of beauty in partnership with the Spirit, we offer a glimpse of the new creation. I'd like to offer one takeaway for us this morning, and then I'll invite Ashley up to share. Mako Fujimura makes the point that in Scripture, God the artist communicates to us first before God the lecturer. In my opinion, the modern Western church has too often relied upon persuasive rhetoric to try and convince people to adopt a certain belief about God at the expense of creating and cultivating beauty that may offer an experience, a felt sense of what God is like. It's this conviction that inspired NCC to host singer-songwriter Andy Squires for a concert a few weeks ago, which many of you attended. And our hope was that we'd have a shared experience of beauty through music and storytelling and the beautiful environment, which many of you expressed gratitude for afterwards. And my hope for our church is that we can continue to make possible these kinds of opportunities that offer us, as well as our surrounding community, a shared experience of beauty that ultimately witnesses to a beautiful God. I'll close with this quote from Brian Zahn. This is from his book, Beauty Will Save the World, Rediscovering the Allure and Mystery of Christianity. And Ashley you're welcome to come up as I read. Our task is not to protest the world into a certain moral conformity, but to attract the world to the saving beauty of Christ. The Western Church has had a 4th-century experiment viewing salvation in a scientific and mechanistic manner, presenting it as a plan, system, or formula. It would be much better if we would return to viewing salvation as a song we sing. Why? Because God is more like a musician than a manager, more like a composer of symphonies than a clerk keeping ledgers. To join the Son of God in singing his beautiful song is to find the melody that can save our soul. This is the beauty that saves the world. Amen. Well, each week during the series, we've had an opportunity to hear from someone in our congregation about their experience of God through the work that they do. And today, we have the privilege of hearing from Ashley Callahan, and she's going to share with us her experience of work being connected to the work of God in the world. Ashley, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Pat. I love this topic so much. I have always been an artist. One can say that I feel compelled to create, cultivate, transform the world around me. I can't help it. It's just who I am. I, as a young child, painted and drew and created messes everywhere. And I am not partial to one form of art or another. And in this phase of life, my current form of art is interior design. And my goal as an interior designer is to foster human connection by creating beautiful spaces that support activities that families long to practice and create within their homes. One part of my work is human connection, one part is strategy, and one part is beauty. I feel super fortunate to be able to do this work that reflects my passions, my heart, my interest, and the gifts that God has given me. I see God as the ultimate artist, the very first artist, who cares deeply about how his children connect to one another. And beauty really matters to our Creator, and I love that. So for human connection, I find that the opposite of loneliness is connection. And I believe God created us to be in relationship with one another and with him. So my role as a designer is to create spaces that make connection possible. When I help shape a family home, I want to shape it into a place where people feel seen and welcomed and loved, and I get to participate in God's restorative work. God gives us gifts so that we can share them with each other. Pat shares his music. So many of you are sharing your gifts with each other, and that makes the world that I want to live in. So we can build a community to reflect his kingdom here on earth. Strategy is also a big part of it. It doesn't just happen. We have to work. The design is creative, but it is also deeply practical. Strategy is the work for me that I love. I've always thought of it as like moving through a maze backwards. If I know where the goal is, I know where I'm trying to go, then I just kind of work my way through it in reverse. Maybe that's the artist in me. So if my goal is to create a space that is warm and engaging, I start with that vision and trace my way back. What does this family long for? What is the character of the house? How can I honor both the people and the place? If the goal of the family is, say they have teenagers and they have a gorgeous home, but they really want it to be friendly. They want it to be approachable for these teenagers that we're struggling to figure out how to connect with now that they're not these like cuddly little rambunctious kids. If that is the goal, how do we create a space that calls them in, that creates that connection. With one family who had teenagers, they had this TV room, and the teenagers were always in there doing something, but it was just a sectional. And so the dad would come in and kind of tower over them and try to connect, as dads do. And it would come just by the fact that he was standing over them and like talking to them with this authority of height, I guess. All we did is put in a chair and make a circle so he had somewhere to sit. And that changed the dynamics in this family so much because the dad wanted to connect with these teenagers, but they did not want him towering over them while he did it. So these little things influence us. The built-in environment really changes the way we feel. You experience this with food or lighting or beauty around us. And I want to use that power for good in the way that people connect. In that process, I sort of become a translator, turning longing into form, emotion into color and texture. And artists get to do this. They get to help others see what is already there but maybe unseen. To me, that is the sacred work. And then last, beauty. Oh man, I love beauty. Beauty is not just a thing, it's a reaction. It is a relationship between us and something that's outside of us. And we may not all have the same sense of what beauty is, and that is also an amazing thing that God gave us. My sense of beauty is different than your sense of beauty. And that reaction to my head, heart, and soul is different than yours, what evokes that wonder in you. To me, beauty awakens that sense of wonder and curiosity in us. It's not static. It's something we feel and we're engaged with, whether it be a room, a painting, a sunset, something that is beautiful. It draws us closer and it invites us in to reflection, connection, gratitude. God created a world overflowing with beauty to stir awe in us. When I create beauty in my work, I'm echoing his character. I'm joining him in his creative expression. That's really cool. Just like Pat creating music that we experience that changes the shape of the way that we connect as a community than if we just sat here with bad music. We are all God's representatives. This means he uses us to care for each other. God could do everything himself. He has the power. But he invites us to co-create with him. And that's what I love most about our work. Through design, I get to join God in making spaces where people experience love, belonging, and beauty. Small glimpses of his kingdom here on earth. Thank you.
Amen. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for that and inviting us into your passion and letting us see your heart in that. It's beautiful. Well, this morning, Jesus invites us to the table. And this table is the table of beauty. It shows us what God is like. For here, we're invited to receive, to experience, to taste the fullness of Christ's self-giving love. It was around this table with those closest to him that Jesus said, greater love, or this morning we might say greater beauty, has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends.